You've tuned into Bellingham Podcast Media Tech for the week of Valentine's Day, February 14th, episode 29. From the thawing out city of subdued excitement, I'm AJ Barce.
And from parts unknown, weighing 260 pounds, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ puts a sleeper hold on popular note service and tag teams up with another contender. I've been an associate of the Four Horsemen of online note-taking apps. I'll give you the inside scoop on which is real and which are fake. Let's get ready to podcast right here on BPM Tech.
I can't even stop myself laughing. How you doing, Chris?
I'm so happy we're approaching the end of the week.
It's been a rough week, so by the time you're listening to this, if you're like, why did BPM not do an episode this week? We were in the middle of snowpocalypse here in Bellingham, Washington. I don't know about you, Chris, but on the second day of the snow, I had a good 6 or so inches in my backyard.
I consulted a couple sources, and sources say the internet tubes froze.
Oh, really?
So we weren't able to get a show out.
Yes.
And now that things are thawed out, hey, we got a new podcast.
And we have a pipe burst, so you're getting this episode.
That's right. It's spewing full of information.
Slightly. So before we dive into the main segment of our show, I have a follow-up from our previous episode.
Follow-up.
This is AJ. So if you haven't listened to episode 28, that was when Chris and I went on a little bit of a gear bag binge, and we talked about getting the best case for our everyday carry, which also, if you check out bellinghampodcast.com, you may see a little special blog post written by Mr. Powell and myself detailing out those awesome baggage.
Call that a carry-all Easter egg.
And carry-all Easter egg for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I got my holidays mixed up.
That's okay. But I wanted to follow up with that because I am recording to you live in this recording on a cracked screen iPhone.
Yes. Let's have a moment of silence for the... I'm sorry, man.
Practicing what we were preaching after that episode, I was like, I've had this case for quite a while. It's pretty long in the tooth. I had a regular, just a kind of a candy shell style, the rubber stuff with on the edges and the hard backing. And after that episode, I was like, I'm gonna take our own advice. I'm going to get the best case for my phone. And so I ordered it, and then the snowpocalypse happened. You would have thought that I would have dropped my phone sliding on ice. Almost did a few times, but no, didn't. Last night, I was reaching for my phone on our dining room table, and it slipped between my fingers and the lip of the table, and as I pick it up, I look at it, and it's got the pretty spider web over it.
And in the distance, a chorus of
there was a lot more
in the background.
There was a lot more than
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, but luckily, it's still the digitizer is still working. So this podcast is still a going.
Thank goodness.
Yep. So this week, we're talking about notes. Welcome to the Royal Note Rumble.
Yes.
Before we dive into this topic, I'm actually going to rewind because Chris and I, we had a premonition. It was a warm summer day in Bellingham.
Above 22 degrees.
Above 22
well
degrees.
Above,
well
yeah.
above, yes. I believe actually this is one of the days we were in, t-shirt and shorts. We were doing a show. That was the same show where we had to deal with the train going by the railroad tracks.
I remember that one.
At
Taylor Dock.
Taylor Dock.
Yep.
So if you actually go back to episode 12, you will hear this clip that I'm playing for you now, where Chris and I actually forecasted that 2016 it was leading up to this Royal Note Rumble. Everybody in the tech sphere is talking about the woes of Evernote and everybody trying to convert to say like Apple Notes or OneNote or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's Note Wars. That's what I call it.
Note Wars 2016.
It's Note Wars 2016. Yeah. I mean, 2014 was all about social. 2016 is going to be about your notes.
Or your information, your personal information and your professional knowledge.
Well, there's always that. Yeah. But, I mean, the thing is... okay, so I'm going to stop using Evernote. It's not because it's a bad product. It's not because that they're shuttering. It's not because... I've outgrown it, in my opinion. It's one of those things where it was good for the time. Mm-hmm. I have notes there. I'm going to try to export them. I'm going to talk to a ace up my sleeve on how to export my database. And I'm going to move on.
Well, how about that?
So we had it on the nose. So now in 2017, boy howdy, I have now divorced from Evernote.
Yes, and I've disavowed all knowledge of Evernote actions due to various reasons.
Yeah, and Evernote's still alive. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Evernote is still, if you're listening to this, like, oh my gosh, Evernote's dead. No. Just Chris and I decided to part ways with Evernote, and it's just much like we talked about in that episode. It's about the fact that tool we kind of grew up from. Like, it didn't grow with us.
Yeah.
And getting our stuff out of Evernote is what I want to talk about, because you had put your toe in the water even at that recording.
Yeah, no, I said I'll go first in many ways, and I tried to see what would happen as I'm looking to advise my clients. Yeah. What if I wanted to move all of my stuff from Park Place to Boardwalk? And oh my goodness, it was a chore, because all of the intricacies of what you were putting into the everything bucket with the green elephant logo did not really format well.
Yeah.
And that created, I was only dealing with a couple hundred notes, and that was a good, slight muscle cramp in my right arm from mouse clicking everywhere. If you have thousands of notes and you've made Evernote your ubiquity in technology, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
And so we're looking for something that is going to be able to be extracted or exported at any time and service us whenever we want, but we need that flexibility.
Yeah, and not limited to 2 devices.
And it can't be a technological black hole. That's pretty much case in point.
Right. And so since then, I went full throttle. I migrated all of my notes to Apple Notes, because I'm in the Apple ecosystem. A lot less painful than when you did it. Although there are some features that do lack. Like, for instance, tagging, it's gone. Like, don't even, if you had tags in Evernote and you wanted to bring them into to Apple Notes, I wasn't a big tagger, so it wasn't any sweat off of my brow. My big thing was I had several notebooks and nested notebooks, which if you export in Evernote each individual notebook, and that's what I ended up doing, and then reorganizing them in your own stacks in Apple Notes, it works. Okay. And so that's what I ended up doing. And but some things are broken. So, for instance, if you used that web clipper, very useful tool made by Evernote called Web Clipper, it would clip the website practically live, like the live website's just brought in offline. That broke. Like the styling and everything of that website, the websites that I clipped, totally gone. Like, the text was there, the raw text and some of the raw graphics, but it's abysmally looking. But the big thing is I took a page out of your book, Minimalism. As I was doing this, I was going, wow, I have a lot of digital junk. Mm-hmm. And I found, like, these websites that I clipped, first of all, they're gone, way to the dodo. Yeah. I don't use them. I haven't referenced them. I did a great purge while I was doing this. So I, much like yourself, I had several hundred notes, and I whittled that down to maybe 100 notes that I actually do needed to keep. And so it was kind of therapeutic.
I don't know if you've experienced this at home, ladies and gentlemen, but when you have that mindset that you're going to save something to refer to it later.
Oh, yeah.
And, this article looks important. I want to read it later because there may come a time when I need to use this.
Do you?
Name 3 occasions when you've actually needed to refer to that. We have this mindset that we might need this in the future. And there's a thing called the Google. And there's a thing called the Wayback Machine. And, there's one thing to keep in our personal reference wiki, for lack of a better term. I've found that all that stuff from 2014, let's go back 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I would need it to make myself a tech that can rest easy at night. Never looked at it once. It's like the bookshelf of all these books that I bought so that I can give the illusion.
I'm going to read it someday. I'm going to read it someday.
I never read it. I donated it to the library.
Wait, Catcher in the Rye? You haven't read that yet?
No, I have just put ham on rye most of the time. And so we have this problem where we're saving stuff that is going to be, we may need it. It's a fear of missing out, of being unprepared. Maybe it's the FOBU, fear of being unprepared. Here's my meme for 2017. You heard it here first. But when it actually comes down to it, first of all, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. And then second of all, we could probably research it in just about the same amount of time. So that begs the question, why are we having these online notes? I totally took us into the ditch with where we're headed, but
that's okay.
It's
a good ditch.
This is an important thing is we're working with our online clutter or our online curated information.
Well, I mean, just even our digital clutter. We were talking to our good friend, colleague Kevin.
Yes.
He was going through the great purge of photos, and he's much like me. He's a pro photog. And as a photographer, like we do keep a lot of data and stuff. But every so often we do purge it, or at least we try to, because there are some shots that are horrible, or we're calibrating our camera or whatever. We don't have to keep it. It's just extra storage on an extra hard drive that I don't want to worry about.
Yep.
So it was very therapeutic breaking up with Evernote. There's a couple things with Apple Notes I do have some gripes with. So well, first of all, so props to Apple. If you're in the Apple ecosystem, this is really a useful tool, this new setup. I like the new password protection. You can password notes. That's cool. I like the fact that I can share a note, but I can't really share a folder of notes, which that was a nice thing of Evernote. Like you and I had a BPM folder for a while. I can't really do that with notes, but I should preface, like, all of my little nitpicks right now easily could be updated like tomorrow.
And for what we're looking for, we're probably in the 3 percentile of annoying professional techs that need this level of stuff. But for the 97th percentile that just needs something to be able to have a checklist of the travel preparation list for what they need to pack.
Yeah.
Apple's got you covered. And also, as we continue on in the podcast, I got a couple cross-platform solutions I've been checking with. So yeah, we got you covered.
Yeah. So again, nitpicking, and I'm in the Apple camp on this one. A little color. I mean, it's basically a white screen with gold yellowish kind of font and black text. Like
you're not really up to the minimalism level if you're going to be talking about color.
But here's the thing. I'd like to flag or tag, like I don't have tags here, right? Like just like Evernote. I'd like to be able to at least pin a note so I can a note that I return to a lot, kind of like in Evernote. I'd like to pin a note or at least like highlight it or color code it. That's what I mean by color. Like I'd like to have a little bit of function here.
And actually, to your point, to have a blue color would be a different kind of tag.
Yeah.
And that's my personal. Red would be family, et cetera, et cetera. And I totally get that. I'm just giving you a bunch of guff.
But bust my chops.
Yes.
So that's my little segue into Apple Notage. There's also another one I want to put on everybody's horizon, and you may have seen it if you're in the Apple ecosystem. It's called Notebook. Now, it's funny because you look at it and it's kind of a blasé icon it's a white icon with like 3 color Post-it note looking things. If you dig down, you'll find out that is made by a company called Zoho. And we've mentioned it here on the show before. They're kind of like an India, I believe they're based in India, an India style of Google, but they're not really a search engine, but they do a lot of the same functions that Google does here in the United States with regards to like the G Suite. Like they have their own docs, they have their own email, they have their own content management system. They have
their own portal.
Yeah, they have their own thing, and they market themselves to businesses. This one notebook app is kind of at least from what I can tell, is one of their first forays into just general usage. And it's really cool. It looks like if Paper by 53 had a weird one-night stand with Evernote.
That's a great way of describing it.
Well, it's gorgeous like Paper by 53. You have like actual, there's a lot of skeuomorphism. So like if you're a flat minimal design, you're probably cringing at me right now. But I think they took a lot of cool design cues. Like Paper by 53's gorgeous skeuomorphic, admittedly, design where there's actual notebooks. You can have different covers of notebooks. And then in them, you have different notes. You can have handwritten notes. You can have a picture. You can have a website. You can have an audio note.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool features. Right now, it's only tied to your device. They're working on the cloud syncing part, which I've applied for their beta. And I'm currently trying to get more information from them and stuff. I got a kink in my account, apparently, that they're trying to iron out. But take a look at it. Notebook by Zoho.
There's a good shot that we'll be revisiting this probably in the summer or in the fall of 2017.
Yeah.
I've used Zoho in the past for Zoho Mail. And Zoho has just a great alternative to the big G.
Big G.
As far as like a word processor, a spreadsheet, a whatever, name it, they've got it. So check out ZOHO on the web.
You are listening to BPM Tech on KMRE 102.3 FM, low power
Community radio.
Here in Bellingham, Washington.
That's right.
So I think before we segue here, the other thing that I want to throw out, and you actually pointed this out to me, is that this week, Quip got an update.
Hello, Quip.
Hi, Quip. We love you.
And obviously you are buds with Slack.
Seriously.
So quip.com is a great online collaboration solution store. Create a document, create a spreadsheet.
Create a podcast, show notes.
Exactly. That's what we use for our show notes and what we both collaborate with as we're preparing what we're going to talk about for the show. And it looked cool, but having been acquired by Salesforce, they made some modifications to the user interface or UI. And the first time I saw it, I'm like, what is Slack doing in my
in my note, my word processor?
And so there's a link to, if you haven't checked out slack.com, it's awesome. Great for free collaboration with others. But yeah, they really polished up their look and feel.
Yeah, I like the new look and feel. I like the Slack app.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean it's minimal. It's effective design. It's efficient design. I got no beef with it, but I do want to throw them a bone because Quip, we're talking about notes as in like a dedicated note app, but I mean you could easily do this with like Quip, where it's a word processor that's storing all of your notes in the cloud.
And let's digress for a moment, AJ, as we're talking about notes and online notes and how we're going to do this. What is the purpose? Why are we doing this in the first place?
Right.
Why is note keeping a thing? Well, I got an answer right off the top of my head.
Go for it.
I have a ton of ideas swimming around my head.
Hey, me too.
Yes. And I cannot write them down at a moment's notice because I tried to carry a little field notes notebook and pen along with me, carry it on my person, and it's not me, but my phone is always with me. I want to remember these little fleeting clouds of brilliance later. And so if it's a reminder about something, if it's to buy something, if it's to research something, you got to be able to remember it for later. And with these notes, also to keep lists, to keep reference material, the fear of being unprepared for FOBU in some cases. I'm going to really work that.
I like it. Work it.
But I'm using notes to try to organize my brain and to get things out of my brain so I don't have to think about it and remember the garbage can, like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I want to be able to put it somewhere like Getting Things Done. Hi, David Allen. This is one of the things where you get it out of your brain and you put it somewhere. And since most of us always have our phones on us, to have an app such as Quip, such as Apple Notes, if you're in the Android camp, there's a Quip app for Android phones as well, plus desktop compatibility. This is what we are using as criteria for what we're going to be recommending and using for ourselves. I'm actually giving Quip a go just for my own thing. How does this compare to my Apple Notes experience? Because I'm in the iOS or I'm in the Apple camp as well, just because that's the devices I purchased. But what if I'm over on a Windows PC? Mm-hmm. Quip's got you covered. Yeah. And so they're a contender. I'm a pretty big fan.
Yeah. And to rebuke what you said, like I use notes to organize my thoughts as well, my fleeting instances. But for me, it's mostly my precursor for when I'm actually doing a post online. So for instance, that EDC blog, I kicked it up in Quip and then shared it with you, and then you and I tag teamed on writing it. I also do the same thing for Patreon, or I do the same thing for when I'm organizing my production schedule for like photos that I'm going to be releasing and the little blurbs, the stories that I write. It's for me, it's more of a it's kind of like my I don't know, digital filing box. Like for me, it's a digital inbox for me, I guess, where I'm currently working on real stuff. And whereas with Evernote, it was kind of the everything bucket, and I realized I just had a whole bunch of clutter. So I've kind of retooled how I'm thinking about my digital notes, and the fact that yes, it has to be on desktop and in the web browser and on my phone, but also just a repository of, for instance, keeping documents that I want to have on hand, like PDFs. That's the nice thing about Apple Notes is I can attach a PDF to a note, so it's now searchable. So for instance, like user manuals. I have a user manual for my old 1970 something Smith Corona typewriter. I may not be able to Google that in a couple of years. So I have a copy of it and I have it in my Apple Notes.
That's a definite justification for having a PDF.
Yeah.
Just because you can't find the 70s stuff unless someone scans it in.
Right.
Or types it in manually. So yeah, that's a total need for that.
So it's a digital inbox and a filing cabinet for me. It's kind of how I'm using it.
And just like you talked about, have something that you got throw it in there, and then we can curate it later.
Yeah.
And we can really customize it and make it, get the online outline and get our thoughts set up so that way we can deploy and not forget anything. And that's what it's all about.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what are some other options that you've been working with?
So the Four Horsemen, of course, if you caught the reference, you're a wrestling fan like me. I've gone down many roads, and there's a lot of online note solutions. One of them, we'll call this one for Tully Blanchard, Simple Note, which is simplenote.com, cross-platform. It's just a really clean interface. It supports Markdown for those of you that do like an abbreviated formatting. Can publish, if you want to publish a note online, let's just say you have meeting notes for the soccer club and you want to make it available to other parents. You have a one-click ability to publish. It creates a web link, and you can email that web link to others. Very convenient.
And that web link, you don't have to sign in like in a Google Doc or anything
Correct.
like that.
Well, you do have a simplenote.com account.
Yeah.
But
everybody else, I mean.
Everyone else can view it. Doesn't matter. You don't need to create an account. You're right. The one drawback to Simple Note is there's not a lot of integration with other software. So it's kind of like a one-man food truck. He makes you your shawarma, but he doesn't really do the pozole or the pad thai. He's got a one-trick he's a one-trick food truck.
I'm totally passive-dopely with you.
Very good. So the Arn Anderson of online note things is Box Notes. So Box.com is another online solution.
Used to be Box.net.
Yeah, Box.net, yes. Box Notes, they're trying to get into the game as well. It's free along with their account, but you can do to-do lists in collaboration with both your online and desktop software. It's got a very logical interface, which I really like. And so with Box Notes, you got to get into the Box Click. So, I mean, not many people have that account, so it's really not a valid solution for a lot of people. A clean and logical interface for me is something that is really appealing, unlike Dropbox's attempt at an online note solution called Paper. And wow, I got to call that one like Paul Roma. He was Four Horsemen towards the end of WCW, and no one liked him, and he had no business being in the Four Horsemen. But it just came out of beta, and yes, everyone's got Dropbox, and you're going to see a link on the left column that says Paper. Do proceed with caution, folks. If you're in the Dropbox camp, I could not figure it out. I'm a professional tech for over 2 decades. I cannot figure out that interface. And now I want to be able to craft a note and get it formatted the way I want to and perhaps share it with some colleagues. It is you could export it to Microsoft Word. I'm trying to speak positively about this. But, you can't delete a document. You can only archive it. So here's hoping they'll get another
It's just out of beta,
It's
Chris.
just out of beta,
I mean,
yes.
They're still finding their feet.
Yeah, I'm gonna equate Dropbox's Paper, other than with Paul Roma, similar to a know-it-all computer tech who really confuses you with jargon and blabber, but it's not really helpful in fixing your problem.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced any computer techs that do that?
Yeah.
I know a couple off the top of my head, but
Not us.
Not us. I'm actually the guy that wants to make you understand what is going on. But I view Dropbox's Paper as kind of like not ready for prime time.
You.
But the Ric Flair of notes
I'm loving
online
this analogy.
is got to be by Google Keep.
Of course.
Now, Google Keep is nicely integrated with Google. It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
But the problem is, and you get color.
Thank you.
It's very colorful.
I like my
just
colors.
like his entrance robes that he wore to
Yeah,
the ring.
I
in the
knew
80s.
where you're going. It's
Yep.
bright. It's happy. I gotcha.
But I gotta, you got the pros. You can have your checkbox lists. You can you share and collaborate with others, and it integrates nicely with other Google features. But those boxes,
Oh, yeah.
it's he always has the figure 4 leg lock. That was his only move. He didn't have another finisher. It's so easy just to flip around and reverse the figure four leg lock. Anyway, Google Keep has these huge boxes that takes up so much of the screen that you're looking at. I like to have a nice condensed interface.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, you need a Google account. There's also the Lex Luger, the darling, the pretty boy of online note things, Bear, which is a new
Bear.
Ode to Bear.
Oh.
It's mainly for the iOS and Mac OS camp, desktop and mobile. It has a great look to it.
Oh, it does.
That's why I chose Lex Luger for this.
I gotcha.
A great look. It's got a lot of color. You can use Markdown. You can pin a note to bring it to the top. Great synchronization online. And it's tag heavy. It really likes tags. It kind of like Lex. He always like posing a lot. This is a lot of tag heavy. Some browser extensions for Chrome. But the problem is Lex costs a lot of money. Yeah. Bear Notes is $15 a year if you want the Pro. The free version it gets you some features, but if you want to go Pro, $15 a year. Now, for the person that designed Bear, throw them a lunch.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth it. But if you're in the iOS, Mac OS crowd, Bear is definitely worth a look as an alternative to Apple Notes. I think we talked about it in previous episodes. So I'm kind of running out of Four Horsemen. There is Arne Anderson, but I don't really have an Arne Anderson. No. That's Apple Notes. He's just the everyday workhorse.
Going back to Lex, or I should say Bear. Yes. Does Bear also have a web interface, or just apps?
It has apps. You have a browser extension that you could save a web page to Bear.
Got it.
But as far as like a desktop format, I don't believe so.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that I like about, I'm going to say our two heavy hitters, which is Quip and Apple Notes. Yeah. Even though, yes, Apple is locked to the Apple environment. But, if you're on a PC, like we are often in the office, like I fire up a web browser and just sign in and use the Apple Notes in the cloud, in a browser. Quip, I have to say, is the goods. Like it works on pretty much everything.
Yeah. We call that the American dream.
That is the American dream notes right there.
That's right.
BPM approved. Oh my gosh!
All right, enough NWA references.
Enough. I love I'm feeling the WrestleMania, brother. That's awesome. I think we've done enough apps, so I think we'll skip our app on tap.
So as we're wrapping this up from this Note Royal Rumble, AJ, what's been keeping you busy other than defrosting your windshield on your car?
Well, I am now officially 1 year older. So on my birthday, I went out on a night photo walk. Armed with camera and stuff, and had a very interesting encounter. And if you're a patron, you can read the full story of it. But I'm working on a new photo series, and it's looking at street photography, specifically long exposure. And so if you've followed me on my photography before, you've probably seen on Your Shot on National Geographic or in my 500 pixels. You've seen a couple of shots of different cities, specifically at night, like Portland, and in Venice and in Paris and London. I realized I had not done Bellingham, which I find ironic.
I usually don't equate Bellingham with cities such as Venice or London or Paris.
Yeah, but it was just interesting to me. I just like, we did the light fighter shoot for LifeX, but like, I just realized I hadn't done my own backyard. And so for my birthday, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to eat some local pie and go on a photo walk. So I did. And so you'll watch the feeds for it. There's a really cool shot coming up.
I'm just working on observing what's around us and just seeing how things are evolving for 2017. So in other words, I don't have much going on.
I would argue that, Mr. Powell, and at least say if you Chris is kind of underplaying the fact that he's just bringing in content and using his brain and listening skills. He is also having a quiet conversation with you at the same time. And if you like having a little 1 week little bite-sized edition of things that are going on in that cerebral tech in front of me, you should definitely check out bit.ly/quietchris. I am one of your subscribers. I actually look forward to your thing every Friday, by the way. And I like the stuff that you're doing, dude. Like the minimal stuff and the random ambience. You actually started to convince me that ambience is not just, dolphin songs and crystals.
It's not dolphin songs, crystals, and spa music. It's actually deep focused soundscapes that, as you have it on in the background, all these thoughts can come bubbling up without being squashed by other voices that we hear all around us in life. So thank you. I appreciate the plug. But I sticking my toe in the transparency pool and seeing what happens. I'm really observing and eyeballing video. I really, and taking a screen capture and showing how something can be done via a video instead of just writing about it.
That's cool.
That is something that interests me.
Yeah. So, that wraps up for this edition of BPM Tech. Thank you again so much for subscribing to us on iTunes, the Google Play Store, SoundCloud, Spreaker, or wherever you podcast. Do be sure you check out us on our website. Like I said, sometimes Chris and I put up a couple of little Easter or Valentine's Day eggs. And you can find us at bellinghampodcast.com. Also, if you are in the Bellingham area, do tune into us. We are on
102.3 FM KMRE, low power.
And we're usually on
Thursdays around 9 o'clock and Saturdays around 1:30 p.m.
Yep. Just, So do subscribe or tune in to us. We greatly appreciate it. And do leave us a review or leave us a voicemail. You can also find us on Twitter. We also have the hashtag hashtag BHAMPodcast. And we monitor that as well if you got questions. Thank you again so much. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on BPM Tech.